10.6 has been out for a couple days and the dust is finally settling. So today we are bringing you guys our tier list so you know exactly who to bring and abuse in your games. For the first time in what feels like quite a while, Riot's actually managed to shake up a lot of the positions, and that Wukong rework is really landing nicely right now. So without further ado, make sure you smash that like button, destroy the sub button, and let's jump right in. Kicking it off with the mid lane, we've got two hard-hitting realizations here, and that's that Garen and Wukong are two of the best performing mid lane champions right now on this patch, which is absolutely insane. The Wukong rework really seems to be overtuned, and Garen is having the time of his life against mid lane, even though he just got his magic resistance nerfed. But of course, why would we talk about Garen when Wukong is all the rage right now? That rework is seriously pumping out some damage numbers, and it's incredibly hard to kill thanks to the new dash and still remaining invisibility on his new W. There's still plenty of time for Wukong's win rate to improve as people learn him better and master new builds. Riot's actually already put in a hotfix nerf on him, and it hasn't slowed the chimp down one bit. Now let's show our hand about all of the highlights for the lower tiers, starting with S tier's Twisted Fate, who is our highlight here, as it seems like a lot of people are underestimating just how much the card AP ratio buffs meant. Blue cards are thrown out a lot, as are red cards. And when every single one of those cards that you throw out in the early game, during the laning phase, when you're trading, when you're pushing, and everything else, it adds up. For A tier, Anivia's been flash freezing the competition pretty hard here, as the new buff to her R slow actually means a lot for how she catches people and her trading patterns earlier on in the game. One full extra second of slow time and time to be able to throw your E on somebody and have it do double damage is no joke. For B tier, Zoe is our highlight here, as her long range, high damage poke is seriously powerful if you manage to land it, but the key word there is if. While yes, Zoe can be very powerful, her consistency is just not there, as she's barely scraping above a 50% win rate right now. Honestly, I'm kinda surprised that Riot never decided to experiment with taking away her ability to put champions into a coma that lasts for literally their entire lifespan. But I guess they really decided that they wanted to go with something that literally kills you in your sleep. And as we step out of B tier and into C tier, you notice a very pronounced drop in quality of the champions here. But if we had to pick one to highlight, it would definitely be LeBlanc. She is incredibly difficult to master and a very tricky champion, but if you do manage to get a hold of how she works and play her well, you will notice that you will outplay almost everybody who comes in your way. And for mid lane's D tier roundup, we take a moment to pause, remember what Akali once was, take a look at her win rate, see wait a minute, she's not the lowest, and then oh, she's still 45%, and move on. After mid lane, let's jump up to the top lane, and our broken tier highlight once again, Wukong is dominating both mid and top lane right now. And just in case you might be thinking, whoa, wait a minute, Ace, that looks kind of fishy, right? He can't be that good in two roles, right? Well, the difference is so large that it's over a full percentage point higher than the next runner-up. It's actually massive. But let's not waste time on somebody who's already gotten the spotlight here in this video. Let's move on to S tier, and our highlight here is going to be Irelia with the new build that we recently did a video on. Irelia rushing Blade of the Ruined King is proving to be a nightmarish champion right now. Almost nobody can deal with her in a 1v1, and she scales incredibly well in the side lane for as long as she can split push, and even into teamfights too after a certain point. She's able to shred squishies and tanks alike, so make sure you take advantage of her right now. Taking another step down into A tier, the highlight here is also going to be a champion who builds Blade of the Ruined King as a first item, although definitely not all the time, as Pantheon is the highlight. He's also been benefiting from the Blade of the Ruined King changes, and we've seen a lot of people pick it up as a first item. That's not to say that people aren't going something like Yumu's or Black Cleaver first anymore, they definitely still are, but the Blade of the Ruined King rush is also putting in some serious work on him. Now you might be noticing a little bit of a trend here, but our highlight for the B tier is Renekton, and it's because people have been building Blade of the Ruined King on him very lately. And when I say very lately, I mean like really recently. Just at the drop of this patch, we really saw a spike in how many people are being successful with Blade of the Ruined King on Renekton. One of Renekton's pain points is that he kinda did struggle into tanks and would really get hard outscaled towards the later stages of the game, but with building Blade of the Ruined King first, he has a lot more chasing power, as you can just Blade of the Ruined King active somebody who's trying to run away from you, and the steal build movement speed is a really big game changer, as you no longer have to waste your E to get in and chase people. Next up for C tier, let's talk about Rise. And when I say let's talk about Rise, I mean he got a tiny buff of 0.2 mana regen and like 40 damage on his W, so he's still C tier because he is trash. Now that's not saying that Rise's potential is bad. While he can be piloted to incredible success, if you're that good at the game, just go make some money playing pro, hello? But if Rise is trash tier, then what could possibly be beneath that, right? Well, if Rise is the trash, then of course, Jace and Akali must be the juice that accumulates at the bottom of the trash can through the whole of the trash bag itself. We're gonna highlight Jace here as he is the better performer out of the two. However, that's not really saying much when you have a sub 48% win rate. He is pretty difficult, however, he is a counter pick to certain champions, and some of those champions are some of the top performers right now. So it's not a total lost cause, but it's definitely not something that you would actively want to play. Before I forget, since everybody's stocked up with enough toilet paper, milk, and bread to last for the next 3,889 days, make sure you go check out our website, GameLeap.com, because we have a literal 50% discount right now. 50% off, and you still get all of our guides, everything from our basics all the way down to our champion-specific guides and every single thing in between. So make sure you take advantage and sign up right now at the link below. And now we get to talk about the Bush Boys. I'm the king of the jungle. Never mind, that's just me. Jungle Kingdom gets to my head sometimes. Anyways, for the broken tier, we've got 3 contenders in the spot. Trundle, Shaco, and Nunu are all performing spectacularly right now. And our highlight here is going to be Shaco, as for those of you who were with us for our patch rundown video, you might remember me talking about the nerf to Shaco being really weird, as AP Shaco is better than AD Shaco anyways, and that's what's dominating right now. While the nerf does affect AP Shaco in some way, it definitely doesn't hit it as hard outside of the early game. You still have absolutely disgusting zone control with your boxes and damage, given that your clone explosion still hits like an absolute tank cannon. Sure, AP Shaco definitely takes a little bit more time to get going than AD Shaco might, but it really has way more impact. Stepping down into S tier, let's highlight Shyvana, because she's been kind of flying under the radar for a little while now, but on this patch, she jumped up super high in win rate. Pretty much over a full percent, going well beyond 52% win rate. The key here is that magic damage junglers who can be safe are really rare right now. Elise oftentimes gets really stuck in bad situations, and since Shyvana's range is so long and it's basically impossible to miss her E, she has reliable, high damage poke on a relatively low cooldown while still remaining mobile and decently hard to kill. Put it together and what have you got? A broken jungler, or well, almost. She's S tier. Honestly, at this point, if Riot did anything even so much as to sneeze on Shyvana's stats or damage, she'd be overpowered. As we start getting into the lower tiers of jungle, let's just start off by giving this sort of disclaimer. We're gonna highlight some of the champions who got buffed specifically for jungle in this patch, namely Brand, Teemo, and a couple others. And this is because, yes, they are new to the jungle in a weird roundabout way. You see, people have always played them in the jungle, and that's kind of where Riot has drawn the inspiration to buff them. You know, players like Forest Within or Mako have played unorthodox things like Brand jungle, Teemo jungle, and other stuff like that in the past. And they've had success with these picks even in the highest of high elos all the way in Challenger. We think it's important to give you guys a pretty good idea of where we think they're going to end up in the patch as it progresses, as obviously not too many people are playing Brand or Teemo jungle right now, but it could be something that develops in the future. With that being said, our A tier highlight is going to be Kindred, as she did get buffs that really impact her jungle clear right now and all of her jungle skirmishing. While she's certainly not one of those special champions who got like a buff to their passive or whatever, the fact that she gets more healing in the jungle, does slightly more damage, is slightly tankier, and so on is very important, as Kindred was riding a very fine line between being just okay and being good. Reliability is a very important thing, and the fact that she is more reliable at basically every stage in the game right now is a big game changer. Now for B tier, you're gonna notice that we have Brand, Morgana, Teemo, and a couple others in there who got those buffs. The highlight here is going to be Shen, because as odd as it might sound, Shen is actually the most consistent out of all of these champions, just on a sort of like literal kit level. Like his abilities are just that performant on their own. His taunt is very powerful and isn't really that hard to land, so his ganks are going to be good, consistent, and his clear won't be bad either, as he's going to do a ton of extra damage with his Q while still having shielding from his passive. Moving into C tier, while we're on that topic of champions that got jungle specific changes, let's mention Gnar real quick. While there definitely is not enough games to really statistically state what's going on with him, just like the rest of the champions who are getting jungle buffs, Gnar is not a champion that we should really ignore. His jungle buff was extremely impactful, as his passive damage from Hyper went up an absolutely insane amount on monsters, and given that, it means that he will have better objective control, better clearing, and healthier clearing than he ever could have before. So right now, if there's any moment in time where he would be okay in the jungle, then now would be it. Just remember, like with a lot of other champions in the lower tiers, that consistency definitely is a question mark here, as it's very difficult to control Gnar's rage and when he transforms so that you can have a really good timer for it on a given gank or a given fight. Lastly, the one champion here that you might notice is Yorick, and that's because he is one of the champions who got buffed in the jungle recently, but it really isn't anything spectacular, and honestly, if you're playing Yorick jungle, you're probably not going to have a good time right now. Your ganks almost entirely rely on landing an unreliable skill shot that can be dodged pretty easily. You don't have a lot of mobility. While your wall is kind of cool and can cut off some passageways, it's not that great. Riot definitely kind of missed the mark on this one here, as Yorick definitely needs just a bit more push in that direction to be able to be an actually good jungler, but the Ghoulies taking less damage, allowing him to have a healthier and faster clear, definitely was a step in the right direction. Alright, the Bush Boys have proven that they are the kings of swing, so let's move on to the bot lane and 4-man gank our way into the 80 carry tier list. While you may notice that Miss Fortune is still broken tier, you will also probably notice that Yasuo is right up there with her. As 80 carries always are, this is directly due to a shift in the support meta that has been really impactful in how bot lane has been playing out right now. If Windwall can really find a lot of value in lane, then Yasuo is almost always going to automatically be a good pick in the bottom lane, and that is what is happening here. That's exactly why he's going to be our broken tier highlight. He has the potential to block incredibly impactful abilities like Miss Fortune ulti, like Sona ulti, like Nami ulti, the list goes on for a really long time, and a lot of them are ultimates. Not only does he provide value directly in that way as an incredible asset to your team in blocking some of the most important abilities from your enemies, but he also just has natural synergy with a lot of the really popular champions right now. Lee Sin is a champion who comes to mind right away, who has a basically on-command knockup. Other things like Gragas exist, Alistar support, even a more enchanter style support like Janna or even Nami does have synergy with him. If you have all these opportunities that can keep you safe and doing a lot of damage all over the place, then yeah, it's gonna be hard to overcome a Yasuo in the bottom lane. Stepping down into S tier, let's talk about Kog'Maw, who's again been flying under the radar despite having such great performance. His pick rate really hasn't gone up at all, but he's still punching at like a 52% win rate right now. This definitely has to do with the fact that Kog'Maw is one of the classic 80 carries to pair with one of the more traditional style enchanters, Kog'Maw Lulu being the callback of all ages. Something like Kog'Maw Yuumi or Kog'Maw Sona can be incredibly effective, and while yeah, the early game will certainly be scary, if you can make it past that point, you're gonna be hitting like an absolute monster. Moving one more tier down into A tier, Aphelios' nerfs will find him landing in the A tier, but honestly, don't get too excited about that just yet, as Aphelios players seem to have consistently proven that wrong, as they somehow manage to warrant more and more nerfs every passing patch. Every passing patch. What the? I'm pretty sure every time I've mentioned Aphelios, I've somehow lost my IQ. Let me go pick that back up real quick. Moving to B tier with all of our brains intact, hopefully, Kai'Sa is going to be our highlight here, as she has a new build that focuses on Hail of Blades that we actually went over in our most recent Korean builds video. With the 80 carry pool being much smaller than most other roles, this is the tier where those inconsistencies really start to shine through. While the new Kai'Sa build is pretty powerful, it's not always there if you don't manage to land everything when you need to. It's very easy to dodge a Kai'Sa W if you manage to see it coming, and if you miss even just one of those, you're probably not going to find yourself killing people all that often. The build really revolves around landing your W and abusing the fact that you get a 70% cooldown reduction refund on the ability. Just, sniping people off for like 900 health every 3 seconds seems absolutely reasonable, but if you miss one, all of a sudden that 3 seconds turns into 10. For C tier, the highlight here is going to be Xayah, as she's definitely not somebody who you should ignore, as if you do have a diving team comp, Xayah is one of those AD carries who can easily shut you down basically on her own. Her ultimate, making her untargetable, is incredibly stifling for a lot of diving champions and can easily cancel out other champions' ultimates left and right. But if you manage to overwhelm her, set her behind in the early game, and then she's just not going to be able to farm, she's not going to have a lot of pressure, she's going to get killed over and over again, and you see the problem. Lastly, for D tier, we can pretend to acknowledge the fact that Corki is there, and then move on with our lives as we realize that Corki AD carry is probably one of the worst things in the game right now, aside from AP Talon. Last but not least, let's get on to the supports here. As I mentioned earlier, there's actually been a big shift here, and the top 3 broken supports are going to be Sona, Bard, and Nami. And while Nami has definitely been there, Sona and Bard are 2 newcomers. As for Bard, we recently went over him in our Korean builds video, as there's been a new sort of support focused, less tanky Bard that's really been shining right now. And because of that, we've already given him a spotlight, so let's talk about Sona. Sona is a pretty simple champion. You press buttons and things basically auto-home on your enemies, and you have a little AoE that your friends can step in. While all of her ability effects are technically simple, there's actually a lot of complexity there, as a lot of Sona's survivability and usefulness comes from her positioning and mobility. You see, Sona's abilities have an innate cooldown that depends on the rank of her ultimate, and so as you gain levels in the game and manage to safely scale, you can pump out damage, healing, and movement speed to you and your teammates over and over again on even lower cooldowns, and eventually it gets to the point where you are literally machine gunning damage, movement speed, and heals basically every other second. And right now, since Sona is the top performer, you have to realize that people are really having no issues getting out of lane with her and managing to impact games in an incredibly impactful way. Moving down a tier to S tier, Maokai has moved from broken tier last patch to S tier this patch. Yes, he is still an incredibly powerful support. People seem to wonder why I put that in the list there, and let me give you a quick explanation. There definitely was a sudden increase in Maokai support's play rate and win rate, which might seem odd, but the numbers were so far out of proportion of the normal that it was beyond being an outlier. And now, while yes, his win rate has steadied out around 52%, he is still an incredibly powerful champion. So, my bad on calling him broken last patch. He might have not have been there, but he is definitely strong right now. One more step downwards, let's talk about Nautilus, who has fell so hard from grace. The thing about Nautilus is that at this point, he just isn't offering enough compared to his other support counterparts. While yes, he is very hard to kill, and he does have a hook as well as good engage, there are other champions who have better engage, or other champions who are harder to kill, and so on and so forth. When you just get outclassed individually at everything, and you aren't just this massive hulking meat man in an armored suit that just cannot die, can basically kill everybody, and has the most powerful CCs in the game, then yeah, Nautilus would be strong at that point. But right now, he's getting outdone on an individual basis, and that's outweighing everything that he brings all around as a generalist support. Especially at this point in time, when a lot of champions who are strong are relying on locking down a given target, somebody like Thresh would be more appealing than Nautilus because he offers the lantern for extra safety, while still having really good engage, being very hard to kill, and also having a hook. For B tier, let's talk about Morgana. While she definitely did get buffed in the patch, and the buffs weren't necessarily that small, it doesn't seem like it's really done all that much for her. She's definitely no longer one of the absolute worst supports right now, but she hasn't really separated herself from the middle of the pack. Honestly, I'm just kind of sitting around waiting to see if anybody's gonna actually try Morgana jungle at this point. Moving down to C tier, you can see that Senna has fallen quite far from the ranks that she once was in the support position. That's because really what's going on right now is the fasting Senna, or the soul stealing Senna, or whatever you want to call it, is really shining right now, and support Senna is really lackluster in comparison. She just doesn't really keep up with the power of the other enchanters who are incredibly strong right now, and she also has a natural weakness to champions with really good engage or champions with hooks. Lastly, support in D tier, as always until he gets some very major changes, is Tahm Kench. This champion requires an unbelievably high amount of coordination between the two people playing in the bot lane, and even beyond that, basically the entire team. His Devour is a very powerful ability, yes, however, it needs to be used in a coordinated manner, and if you just use it over and over again, you're not gonna have a good time. So if you are playing him, I highly recommend only doing it if you have an AD carry duo with you. And with that, we have finally wrapped up every single position in this tier list for this patch. A lot of people right now are losing their minds, stocking up on food, toilet paper, and just about anything else that they could ever need to make sure that they don't have to leave their houses for the next 3,498 days. And since that's happening, right now we're running a discount on our website for 50% off. So if you need extra coaching, extra help, and want the best edge that you could ever possibly get for your games, make sure you go check out our website, GameLeap.com, right now. We have guides on just about anything that you could ever want, and we're always working with our challenger level content creators to bring you guys the best videos and edge that we possibly can. We've got micro guides, champion specific guides, macro guides, lane specific guides, just about anything. And if you happen to notice something that you think is really important that we have missed, make sure you let us know. Like I said, we're always trying to make more videos so that you guys have everything that you could possibly need. And that's exactly why you should take advantage and sign up now so that we can start helping you win your games right away. I can tell you guys right now that I will definitely be working on Wukong guides so that even if you guys are finding yourself unable to master the Monkey Master, we can give you guys exactly what you need to be able to take your game with him to the next level. If you made it this far, thanks for watching the whole video. What do you guys think of the list? Have we mislabeled anybody, or maybe we've actually missed somebody? Make sure to let us know. We're constantly updating the tier list patch by patch, and so if we happen to have missed a champion and haven't realized it by this point, well, we might need some help from you guys. Anyways, as always, my name is Ace Windstorm, and I will see you all later.